And now for the moment I've all been waiting for. We're going to take a look at the Lincoln and Rath orthography. Let's begin, shall we? I'm going to open up my Word document here. So this is the Lincoln and Rath orthography. In the previous videos, we looked at Hein Vink, who was the first linguist to develop isla writing systems. Lincoln and Rath were the next group of linguists to do that. So in 1986, Neville Lincoln and John Rath published a document called Phonology, Dictionary, and Listing of Roots and Lexical Derivatives of the Isla Language of Kitlope and Kitimat, BC. I need to take a breath after that. Yeah, it's a bit of a long title. That's a mouthful right there. This publication contains more than 14,000 lexical entries and was presented in 2 volumes. So in volume 1 is an introduction which explains different aspects of the Isla language and how it works. And then the main part of it is the lexicon. So a lexicon is basically like the dictionary. It's a listing of words. And then in volume 2, we have something unique which had not been seen before with the Isla language, really that much. We see a root word listing. So I'm going to switch back to my camera here. So the way the Isla language works is it's made up of different parts of words. So you have the beginning of a word, which is what they call a root word. And then you have an ending, usually referred to as a suffix, sometimes referred to as a clitic of some sort, like an enclitic or proclitic. The terminology can get a little bit confusing, so I'm not going to get into that. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say you have root words and then you have suffixes. So a root word is a small word. It usually cannot stand on its own. There are some exceptions. There are some root words that can actually be used as full words, but they're rare. Most of the time, a root word cannot stand on its own. So you have a root word, which has its own meaning, and you add a suffix, which has a different meaning, and you join them together. So you have every Isla word is made up of usually a root word and at least one suffix. There could be many suffixes. There could be 2 or 3 or more in some instances, but that's not very common. Usually there's 1 or 2 suffixes at the end of a Isla word. So the fact that Lincoln and Rath included a listing of root words was really significant. So I'm going to switch back to the document here. Lincoln and Rath had previously published a document called North Wakashan Comparative Root List, and this was in 1980. So their Isla/Henoxiala dictionary was 1986. 1980, 6 years prior to that, they published the North Wakashan Comparative Root List. So this publication explores common root words in Isla/Henoxiala. So that's the Isla and Kitlope dialects. Also included is Heitzaquala. Heitzaquala is the Bella Bella dialect. There's also Awikiala, which is the Rivers Inlet dialect. And there are also root words in Kwakwala, which is the Kwakwakwak dialects. So these languages are linguistically closely related to each other and make up the North Wakashan language family. So all of these dialects make up the Wakashan language family. So Isla/Henoxiala Kiala. That's also Heitzaquala, Owikiala, and Kwakwala. Those all make up the North Wakashan language family. So they're also distantly related to South Wakashan dialects, which include Nuchanuth, Nutanat, and Makah. So one unique aspect of this root list book is that we see symbols that were not previously used in Haisla. So we'll see those later on. I'll do a breakdown of the symbols that make up the Lincoln Rath orthography. Another notable aspect is the layout of the book. So root words are grouped by place of articulation as opposed to alphabetically. So this is something we previously saw in Heinvink's Dictionary of Haisla, where words were listed as in this order here, where you have a B. So words starting with B, followed by words starting with P, then ejective P, regular M, glottalized M. So they followed that format instead of A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. So this is significant because it shows how the sounds are related to each other and groups them accordingly, as opposed to the seemingly arbitrary nature of the English alphabetical order. So if you think about it, these letters are all related to each other because they're all labial sounds. So labial means lips. The way you make these sounds is by closing your lips and then opening them and releasing the sound. In some cases, like the M and the glottalized M, you're not actually opening your lips, but the sound is coming out of your nasal passage with these two sounds. With these ones, you're opening your mouth, but you're closing your lips to start off with. So that's why it's helpful to group them according to what we call a place of articulation. It just basically means where the sound is coming from. So these are all produced in a similar manner, and these are what we call allophones. So it's a linguistic term. It essentially means that these sounds are related to each other in regards to how they're made, and in some instances they are interchangeable. So you can actually substitute one of these letters for another one depending on the situation and not change the meaning of the word that you're saying. So this is a good way of categorizing or listing words, whereas A, B, C, D, E, F, if you think about these letters, what do they have in common? Nothing. They have no relation to each other because they're all made differently. So if you look at this, A is a vowel, B is a consonant, C is also a consonant, so B is a labial consonant, C is an alveolar consonant, it's actually an affricate. It starts off as a glottal stop and finishes as a fricative. D is now an alveolar consonant. E is a vowel. F is also a fricative. So A, B, C, D, E, F, when you list them in this order, there's no relationship between them. They're all made differently. So it's largely arbitrary, the English alphabetical order. So that's why this is significant in the root list that was published by Lincoln Rath in 1980. The listings are also numbered and are referenced in the 1986 dictionary in the root word listing in volume 2. So whenever you take a look at the root list in the Lincoln Rath 1986 dictionary, you will see numbers beside them. And that's where these numbers come from, is this North Wakashan comparative root list. So that's what came before the 1986 dictionary. One feature that makes the Lincoln Rath dictionary so helpful is the fact that it includes some example sentences. So for example, for Q, which means no or not the case or non-existent, we see sentences like this. So we have Q'un p'ala, Kyun ala, which means I am not working. There's another example listed in the 1986 dictionary. Kyuni spala. Kyuni spala, which means we, inclusive, are not working. So that means we, including you, the person that's being spoken to. Everybody here is not working. Another example sentence. Kyunu spala. Kyunu spala, which means we, exclusive, are not working. So you're not including the person that you're speaking to. So everybody here except you are not working. So that's really helpful to have some examples of the word Q. Lincoln Rath provide many more example sentences for this entry, which helps add context to words by using them in everyday speech. So you're seeing the word Q being used in a practical manner. It also demonstrates the process of morphology, or how words change when put into sentences. So you can take this word Q by itself, because this is something that people need to understand about the Isla language, is that single words are basically descriptions. So you can take the word Q and you add a suffix like N. This N means I or me. So when you say Kyun, that means I, means not I, and then ala means to work. So if you look at this literally, it means not I work. And in English, we would change that to I am not working. And then you have Q, and this niece means we, including you. So if you look at this literally, Kyunis ala means not, we, inclusive, working. Kyunuch ala means not, we, exclusive, working. So that's what we call morphology. We're taking this root word Q and we're adding suffixes to add context to the word Q. Additionally, some information about word structure is provided by root word listings for lexical entries. So in the previous example, the root word is Q, and various suffixes are added to it, such as Q and then un, which I mentioned before is actually reduced down to the letter N. So just to give you a bit more of a visual example of what I just talked about. So Q is the root word. We add the suffix N, and this gives us Kyun. Q plus the suffix nis gives us Kyunis. I'm not sure why there's a bracket there, so I'll get rid of that. And then Q plus nuch means Kyunuch. So you have your root word, and you add a suffix, and you have a new word. That's one of the great things about the Isla language, is you're taking root words. The beginning of the word can stay the same, but when you change the ending, you change the overall meaning of that new word that you've created.